involved in the proceedings. They had no view on bail. Then the director...
Clive, I'm just going to butt in there because we've got Julian Assange speaking. Let's just hear what he's got to say.
Are you confident that you will remain here in the UK, or do you fear that you may actually be extradited to Sweden?
I don't have too many fears about being extradited to Sweden. There are much bigger concerns about being extradited to the United States.
And do you think that is quite likely? I mean, your lawyers talked about third-party influence. Do you have any further details on that?
We have a rumour today from my lawyers in the United States, it's not confirmed yet, that there has been an indictment made against me in the United States.
And you have until 10 o'clock to actually remain outside until a strict curfew. Are you confident that you're actually going to be back in time?
Yeah, hope so. Well, it depends on the snow. But although I am free and no longer in solitary confinement in a basement, it should be understood that I am under house arrest under fairly strict conditions, and which is of course wrong for someone who is innocent to be under those conditions. Those who have been following the case will have heard time and time again repeated statements that no evidence needs to be presented in this case by the prosecution. But to extradite me, no evidence is needed under European arrest warrant. In relation to my bail application, they said they did not need to present any evidence. In Sweden, every single court hearing has been in secret, and we still have not been provided with the evidence. I have provided with not a single page of information in English whatsoever.
What next for WikiLeaks? Where do you go now, and have you become the story to some degree?
Well, we continue on with our work. We have seen in my week away that my team is robust and the support for them is strong, and we were fortunately able to continue publishing in a very efficient and successful manner, even though I was taken out briefly. That is not to underestimate the risks faced by all of us, but it does show that we are a resilient organisation that can withstand decapitation attacks.
What more does WikiLeaks have to come? I think there have been allusions that maybe other information that's being reserved perhaps you might at some point publish.
We have a lot more information to come. That is our usual course of business. We are trying to increase the speed at which we are able to publish. We are doing that despite presently at the spending about 85 to 90% of our resources defending attacks, not this particular case, but across the board. But we've seen and been very encouraged by the strong support for us all over the world, including in the UK and in Sweden and in the United States. And we believe that that support, if it continues at the level that it continues, is protective and will protect us as an organisation and send a warning to organisations that are trying to stop us publishing.
Is it right that you've published what you've published? In what sense perhaps is it in the public interest you published the list of sensitive locations? Does that really expose any kind of wrongdoing at state level?
Well, you're talking about a very specific, detailed issue that I don't really have time to go into now, but yes, those sort of things show the particular vital resources that the US believes that it is interested in particular countries. There's no security information revealed with that list, but the people in those countries have a right to know why they are of particular interest to the State Department, and they also have a right to know that the US ambassadors in those countries were tasked to gather that information without, and this is explicitly mentioned, without contacting the host governments of those countries. In other words, ambassadors were tasked by Hillary Clinton to engage in espionage behaviour. And that is not the first cable we have released on that subject. More serious ones, including tasking ambassadors to steal the DNA of leaders of human rights organisations in South America, including stealing the DNA of members of the UN Security Council and even Ban Ki-moon. So that's a serious change. I don't believe that that has always been the case. Of course, embassies have always been a host for espionage, but diplomats have not always been tasked to conduct espionage. That seems to be a change, and that seems to be representative of a gradual shift to a lack of rule of law in US institutions that needs to be exposed, and that we have been exposing, and that other journalists have been helping us to be exposed, and which is something that I believe that the US public does not support, the Australian public does not support, the British public does not support, the Swedish public does not support.
Is there anything you wouldn't publish? Will you ever stop?
We're very clear, unlike, in fact, every other news organisation, and we encourage other news organisations to follow our lead. We say precisely what we will and will not publish ahead of time, so sources can be confident that we're not just going to arbitrarily, in an ad hoc manner, reject their efforts. Rather, they can see through public criteria the material we will publish and not publish, and therefore have confidence in us and be able to check us if they have provided us material that meets our public criteria that we do not publish. They can ask why. Similarly, if they provide us with material that does not meet our public criteria and we publish, then they can ask why. So that is a matter of policy. We don't engage in ad hoc decisions. We have written policy for our public decisions, and that keeps us accountable. And we think that is the way forward in journalism that all news organisations should follow.
I think they'll have to do it, Julian, because we are a bit late. You have to meet your curfew.
Okay.
One final question.
I'm under house arrest, so I got to go.
Right, okay. Julian Assange, they're being told that he's got to maintain the conditions of his curfew there. Addressing journalists in central London, newly released from prison, of course, making it clear once again that he believes he's justified in his decision to make public secret US diplomatic cables.